Hello, I'm Angela Avery, host of Be a Kid in Clarkston and a local family counselor. Welcome to our third episode of this Independence television series where we will learn about the whole child and whole adult development. Today we have a great episode. I'm very excited to share it with you. We'll be discussing art education and why it's important, bullying in our schools, and a fascinating topic on multiple intelligences. Sharing their information on each subject will be Brian Adams, principal from Clarkston Elementary, Jessica Hall from the Clarkston Administrative Building, and Dr. Rod Rock, superintendent of Clarkston Community Schools. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you.
Sure. I don't want to waste any minute of our time because these are really important topics. So let's get started on bullying in our schools. Mr. Adams, can you tell us what is the true definition of bullying?
Bullying is defined as any gesture or written, verbal, graphic, or physical act, including electronically transmitted acts like the internet, telephone, cell phone, or wireless handheld device that without regard to its subject matter or motivating animosity is intended or that a reasonable person would know is likely to harm one or more students, either directly or indirectly, by doing any of the following: substantially interfering with educational opportunities, benefits, or programs of one or more students, adversely affecting the ability of students to participate in or benefit from the school district's educational programs or activities by placing the students in reasonable fear of physical harm or by causing substantial emotional distress, having an actual or substantial detrimental effect on a student's physical or mental health, and or causing substantial disruption in or substantial interference with the orderly operation of the school. Bullying can be physical, verbal, psychological, or a combination of all three.
So that was really wordy, and I know that included a lot of really important things, but what is Clarkston Community Schools' policy on bullying?
It is the policy of the district to provide a safe and nurturing educational environment for all of its students. Bullying or aggressive behavior toward a student, whether by other students, staff, or a third party, including board members, parents, guests, contractors, vendors, and volunteers, is strictly prohibited. This prohibition includes written, physical, verbal, and psychological abuse, including hazing, gestures, comments, threats, or actions to a student, which cause or threaten to cause bodily harm, reasonable fear for personal safety, or personal degradation.
Okay, that's important stuff. What kinds of bullying are we seeing in our community here?
In Clarkston, we're pretty lucky to have great kids and great families, but it would be naive to think bullying doesn't happen here. At the elementary level, most situations involve students who are developmentally still learning how to handle conflict resolution. Typically, situations at our level are able to be handled by getting the parents involved. Examples include online disputes and/or threats, physical aggression, and using threatening words towards others.
Okay. So what can we do as parents and educators to prevent or stop bullying from your perspective?
Well, be proactive. We need to teach our students and our children to be empathetic towards others. We need to teach them how to solve conflicts. We need to help change the me mentality into a we mentality. At the elementary level, we have conducted a whole child study to look at ways to support students. The schools are adopting proactive programs to teach the students how to interact with the people around them.
Okay, that's great, thank you. If our child has been bullied, I know parents get very nervous. What should we do?
Focus on a solution rather than the problem.
Okay.
Contact the school principal immediately to allow them to address the situation. If it's the first time that they are being made aware of the bullying, allow them the chance to handle the situation.
Okay, so really, that's our first step. Thank you, Mr. Adams, for the very important information. We appreciate it. Hi, Jessica, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Let's switch gears here and talk about art education, one of my favorite topics. How important is art to the educational process?
A fine arts education, and under that umbrella includes music, theater, photography, painting, or any other types of mediums, whether in practice or theory, has been a part of well-rounded curriculum for decades. The arts cannot be learned through occasional or random exposure any more than math or science can. Education and engagement in the fine arts are an essential part of schools' curriculum and an important component of educational programs. Multiple studies show that there is a correlation between arts and other academic achievement. A report by Americans for the Arts states that young people who participate regularly in the arts are 4 times more likely to be recognized for academic achievement, to participate in math and science fair, or to win an award for writing an essay or a poem than children who do not participate. In 2009, the Center for Arts Education published a report that arts education may improve graduation rates. The study also found that at-risk students cite participation in the arts as their reason for staying. Participation in these activities has quantifiable impact on levels of delinquency, truancy, and academic performance. As Clarkston Subject Area Coordinator and resident art teacher at Renaissance High School, and with the education I received for my master's in art education, I feel I am highly qualified to speak on this matter. Students need to be thinkers, possess people skills, to be problem solvers, demonstrate creativity, and work as members of a team. We need to offer more in-depth learning about things that matter the most: integrity, thinking skills, a sense of wonder, flexibility, fairness, dignity, creativity, and cooperation. The arts provide all of these.
And it's interesting that you said that because it really ties into bullying as well. We need all of that. So why is art so important to growth and development for our kids?
The arts benefit students in numerous ways, including the development of decision-making skills and the ability to think creatively and innovatively. Creating art expands a child's ability to interact with the world around them and provides a new set of skills for self-expression and communication. Not only does art help develop the right side of the brain, it also cultivates important skills that benefit a child's development. Arts learning can improve motivation, concentration, confidence, and teamwork. The arts are essential. They teach students innumerable lessons. Practice makes perfect. Small differences can have large effects. Collaboration leads to creativity. The arts also teach children that there are several paths to take when approaching problems, and that problems can have more than one solution. That is why STEAM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, is really turning into STEM. STEM is really turning into STEAM, and it's gaining traction as a movement in the government as well as research circles.
Okay, they really want to add that arts
Yes.
into that STEM program. Great. What kinds of topics and instructions would we see at each educational level in our schools today?
Unfortunately, at the elementary level, our students only receive 30 minutes of art and music once a week. We are one of the only districts in Oakland County that offers such little time. Some of our fine arts teachers see over 1,000 students per week. We have a very strong, dedicated, and hardworking fine arts teachers in our district, though. At the early childhood level, the students are provided and exposed to a range of materials. Design experiences for children are focused on the exploration and creative manipulation of materials. The elementary level is where we begin to use more materials to include which include those that require more fine motor coordination. We begin to involve art history, aesthetics, criticism of our into our art classes. Some of these strategies include creation of personal art collections, visiting museums, holding guided conversations about works of arts with students. We also try to integrate arts into the regular classroom so students can learn in context. This also encourages real-world and cross-disciplinary connections.
Sure.
This upcoming year is an exciting year for Sashba Middle School because the students have more art choices. Before, they could only take Art 6 and Art 7. Now they have electives that they can take, such as mixed media and painting. Middle school art focuses on skills development, building confidence, increasing the imagination, and time management skills. We have a wide range of art classes at the junior high and at the high school. At this level, the students begin to make choices and are encouraged to risk take, develop visual metaphors, and work thematically. There is more time for artistic development and exploration, peer group dialogue, and connections between the real world and the classroom. We use authentic assessment, such as portfolios and journals, and students begin to document their journey of their art experience.
Wow, this is great stuff. What can we do as parents and as a community to support our education?
It's a wonderful question. Start with talking to your child or your children and their art teachers. Inquire about what they're learning and what's going on in their art program. Ask how you can be helpful. Encourage art and creativity in the home and celebrate their artwork. Take your family to art in public places, museums, galleries, theaters, concerts. Volunteer your time and resources and skills. Many schools would appreciate your time, your skills, your donations of supplies, monies, costumes, rehearsal spaces. Get involved politically. Tell your elected officials why art education is important. Talk to school leaders. Testify at board meetings the importance of art education. Be the solution. As you approach your school leaders with your message in support of art education, don't just insist that principals offer more art education overnight. School leaders are facing tough situations. Offer solutions that help these problems.
Thank you, Jessica. Every piece of education is important and art is no different, so we appreciate it. Next, we're going to turn to a fascinating topic, multiple intelligences. It's a weird sounding phrase, but I know Dr. Rock will have some information. Can you explain what that means?
Yes, Angie, thank you for having me. So back in 1983, Dr. Howard Gardner of Harvard University studied lots of different people with different kinds of brains to determine how they learn. And in that work, he looked at musicians, he looked at artists, he looked at mathematicians, he looked at people in nature who study nature, and he determined that those were indeed intelligences that we possess. So some of us are really mathematically intelligent. We can look at something and see mathematical patterns, and we solve problems in that way, and we seem inclined toward mathematics. Others of us are language intelligent, where we really see words and we understand words, and we have vocabularies and things of that nature that in the way we understand things. Mm-hmm. As Jessica talked about, some of us are spatially intelligent, such as architects and artists who can look at things and see those kinds of patterns. Musical intelligence, we can understand music, we can read music, and we can understand the world through music. So all of us are intelligent in different ways, and multiple intelligences helps determine how we're intelligent in those ways. So it's a different way of viewing intelligence instead of just one single way to be smart, as in most of our assessments are in terms of logical and mathematical or verbal and linguistic. If we help students through the other intelligences such as musical or spatial or nature, they might be able to show us more and understand more deeply the other disciplines.
So you're kind of speaking to my next question would be, is why is it helpful for parents and educators to really know about the multiple intelligences?
Well, I think we really, as educators, as in our government and in the way we define intelligence, I think needs to evolve, it needs to change. I think it's far too limited. Just because students can do well on a paper and pencil test, because they can understand things quickly mathematically or verbally, because they can really speak well, that doesn't mean kids who don't have those same skills aren't as intelligent. So if we had kids have opportunities to understand the world through the arts, if we could present information in that way, ask kids to talk about things in that way, then they could perhaps show us beyond the paper and pencil assessment of how they're intelligent. And I think we really, really need to broaden that, because I think right now it's exclusive in terms of what intelligence means. And I think it needs to be much more inclusive. And kids who can go out in nature and start a fire really quickly or know how to survive, how to cut down a tree, that doesn't mean they're less intelligent than kids who might be able to write about those things or talk about those things. They just need to have other ways to represent their intelligences.
Right, okay. This really speaks to the whole child development. How can we as parents help our children to understand what kind of a learner they are?
Well, I think, as Howard Gardner talks about, children have natural proclivities, and perhaps the word natural is not exactly 100% accurate. It's nature and nurture. So if I'm in a home, let's say my father is a doctor, or my mother is a pharmacist, and that kind of language is around, and we're talking about those things and we're exposed to those things. Or perhaps my sister takes piano lessons and at a young age I'm hearing those things. I might be really interested, and I might show those natural proclivities toward those ideas and have a real interest. And I think parents can really help their children explore those interests and the things that they're passionate about, to really give them opportunities to explore, to dig in the dirt, to play, to work with puzzles and patterns. And I think children will show us how they're smart, and then we need to honor those intelligences, talk to our kids about how we really value their hard work and their determination and their stick-to-itiveness with those things, and talk to kids not always comparing them to one another, like saying, well, your sister was really good at this and you're not as good at this. Look at the things, the strengths that kids have. We're all very, very different. We're not the same, and we shouldn't be comparing ourselves to one another. We want to feel like we can be successful. So when we honor the way our kids are smart, we allow them to explore in those ways, to talk about those things, then I think we really help those children define themselves and understand themselves, which is so vitally important.
Absolutely. Okay. How is Clarkston Community Schools using this idea and the results of multiple intelligences?
Well, I think we're trying to think about it and be aware of it, and I think that's an important first step. I really want our teachers to look at their children, to the students who come to them. I want them to look at them holistically. It's not as if when you come to my 11th grade algebra class as if you have no experience, you have no background, you have no story. So we really need to get to know kids to help us think about kids, about their growth over time. So where a student starts in their learning may not be the same as somebody who's sitting next to them, but their growth over time may be incredible. So if we can really think about kids holistically, understand children, get to know them, talk to them, have them tell us their stories, give them many different kinds of opportunities to show us what they know and to represent what they know, and we can have this awareness of multiple ways of being smart, then I think we're heading in the right direction.
That sounds like it. Okay. Is there a test that we can take to determine our own multiple intelligences?
I don't know that there's a test, Angie,
Okay.
and I don't know that we'd want to limit it to that. When Howard Gardner talks about it, he'll talk about places like the Exploratorium out in San Francisco, which is a science museum where kids can go and they can play, or adults, and they can have an opportunity to look at many different, the way the world works, and play around, mess around with those things. And he says if you could observe a child in that kind of environment, then you could determine how they're smart, you know, their proclivities, their interests. He also talks about if any one of us were dropped into a foreign country in a really unfamiliar place, and we didn't know the language, we didn't know the people, if you observed us and how we worked our way through that situation, that would help you determine how you're smart, the way you went about solving problems, the way you ask questions. So I think, again, when we limit it to a paper and pencil, or we think about kids only being smart in one way, I think that's harmful to kids. And so I think observing them, letting them play and solve problems is the best way to help us understand how kids are smart, how they're different, and also help kids understand how they're smart, and that being different is not only exactly how it is, because we're all different, but it's how it should be. I don't think we should be comparing ourselves to one another constantly and saying, I'm better than you, or
Right.
you're not as good as me, but this is who I am, and this is how I'm smart, and this is where I fit, and this is the contribution I can make.
Okay, thank you. That's really an interesting topic. Today's episode was packed with great information on bullying, art education, and multiple intelligences. Thank you for tuning in to Be a Kid in Clarkston, and we'll see you next time.